Hi, fourth graders. This is Mr. Dinsmore again, and this is the long-awaited long division traditional method video that you guys have been after. I recommend you watch the circle method and the parts method and understand what's going on there first before you hop into this method, because it lets you have a visual or be able to conceptualize what's actually happening when you do the traditional method versus just memorizing steps. When we're using division, we are actually working from, in the traditional method, we're actually going from left to right. In traditional multiplication, we're actually going from right to left. So in division, we're kind of going the direction we read. So keep that in mind. So we're literally looking at the 5, then we're looking at, the second thing we're doing is looking at the 2, and then we're going to look at the 0, and then we'll divide into the 7. And sometimes we'll be doing this digit at a time or more than one digit. So let's get started. So first we'll divide into here, and we'll go the second one, the third one, and then the last one. And 8 is being divided every time in this type of pattern. Now, one way to help us remember all these steps for long division, because there's a few steps to it, is understanding what we're doing first of all. But we also use this acronym that's broken into some letters here, because we're looking at the 5 and then the 52, the 0 and the 7. But how do I remember how to divide into these numbers? Well, first thing I'm going to do is divide. So I'm going to put the letter D here. Then after I divide my number, 8 into my number, I'll multiply, and then I'll subtract, and then I'll bring down, and then I'll repeat this as much as I need to until I've used up my numbers and I've broken them among the 8 parts. Well, does Mom share beans and rice, or whatever you need to do for your acronym to help you remember it? But it's just divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. However you want to remember that, and we've done some funny ones in class. So I'll be pointing that the D is divide, M is multiply, subtract is next is the S, and the B is bring down, and R is just repeating this process over and over. So let's go through it together. I'm going to focus on the 52 here because I can't divide 8 into 5s, but I can divide 8 into 52. So what number, if I go by multiples of 8, if I'm going 8 parts here, how many of them would I need to get to 52? Well, what I need to do is I need to realize that, well, 6 times 8 is 48. That gets me pretty close. But if I go higher than that and go 8 times 7, I'm going to get 56, and that's going to be too high. So I have to kind of remember when I'm counting by my numbers of multiples of 8 that I have to make sure my number is below the 52, and I cannot go past that the numbers. Well, when I go to subtract, I'm going to run into trouble. And plus, it's not going to split the way I want it to. So we can go 8 times 6. And my first step is actually to divide, so I divided 8 into 52. Then I'm going to multiply that number that I saw that 8 could fit into 52 6 times, so now I'm going to multiply the 6 times 8, and then I'm going to write the answer down below the 52. And it's important you put the 6 above the 2 because I'm not dividing it into the 8 into the 5, but into the 52, so I want to go to the farthest digit over, which is the 2. And that's set. So 6 times 8 is 48. I have now multiplied. Now my next step is to subtract, so I'm going to subtract 48 from 52, and you can see I'm going to have 4 as my answer. Now what do I do? Do I divide my 8 and divide by 4, or obviously that's not going to fit? Well, I want to bring down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 0 and bring it next to the 4. Now my direction of dividing is going to be the numbers that I bring down. So my 8 now will be being divided into whatever number I bring down from the original number, which was 5,207. So I'm whittling away at it. So, well, 8 times what gives me 40? Well, that's easy. That's 5. So as you can see, I'm going to divide again. So I'm going to repeat this whole process that I did, and I'm going to divide again. So that's when I come to repeat, because I still have numbers to work with. And I'm now dividing 8 into 40. And that goes 5 times. And then so I divided, well, 5 times 8, which is my multiply part. I'm dividing, timesing that 5 and 8 gives me 40. And you can see that now I'm going to subtract the numbers, and I will have 0. Well, my next step again is to bring down. So I'm going to bring down my 7. And then I repeat what I just did. So now I'm going to go back up here again for the second time and divide. Well, can 8 go into 7? Well, it can't go one time, so it can't, so that means 0. So I actually am going to put a 0 here. So and then after I put my 0, because it can go in 0 times, I'm going to times 8 by 0, and that's going to give me 0, because anything times 0. And then if I subtract that, I'm going to have an answer of 7. Now, I could have known my remainder was going to be 7 anyway, but I needed to make sure I put that 0 up above and not just leave a 65, because my answer is 650 here with the remainder 7. And see that my answer would be the top number, which is 650, and my remainder is 7. Now, I'm going to clear this off here and then write the answer out, the 650. But I'd like you to also notice that my remainder is not the way that I would like to write it. I mean, I could put 7, R7, but if you notice, our parts are 8. We're dividing by 8, so that needs to be my denominator. And so my number is complete once I've put that on there. And now my answer is 650, remainder 7/8. So 650 7/8. And that's the proper way to express this division number. Well, let's move on and clear the board again, and I'm going to do another one with you really quick and through the steps so that you can just practice what we've learned. So write down 6 divided into 2,408. Now I did this on purpose because the 0 in that 2,408 is going to kind of throw a trick in where some students have struggled. So let's write down our divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. And we'll go through those steps. I'm not going to label the things as much as I did before because I like to move through this relatively quick. So first I look at my 2's not going to work, but I can look at 24. And by the way, I'm going to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. So 4 is my times. 6 is divides into 24 4 times. And now I times it, multiply, and that gives me 24, which now I subtract, and I get 0. Well, what do I do with the 0? Because I'm going to bring down a 0, and I have 0. Can 6 go into 0? No, it can't. So it's important I say that I put a 0 here. It goes in 0 times. 0 times 6 is 0. And then I can subtract that. I really don't have to, but I'm going to, so I go work through my steps. And obviously I have an answer of 0. But it's important I put that 0 up top, else I'll get my answer wrong because that holds that place value. Now I can bring down the 8 and repeat the steps. Taking 6 into 8, well, it goes 1 time. 1 times 6 is 6, and now I multiply, and then I subtract, and I get a remainder of 2. So my remainder is 2. Well, my answer, of course, would be the top number, 401, with a remainder of 2. Well, so I need to write out my number as 401, and since it was breaking in parts of 6, or I was dividing by 6, I'm going to put 2/6, which could be reduced to 1/3. 401 and 2/6 is the answer. Or if you wanted to simplify, you could say 401 and 1/3. I hope this helps you out with the long division method. Your parents can help you on this, and I hope it clarifies it for you. But here's the steps, and this should be your goal as a 4th grader to have this down, and this will get you prepared for 5th grade. So enjoy.